Content warning. The following show contains tobacco smoking, possible potty mouth language, discussions of fictitious violence, emotional trauma, and memories of things that people might not want to talk about in regards to games. But I promise you, it's all important. From one nerd to another, you're going to want to stick around for this. But either way, viewer discretion is advised. Hello, everybody. Hello. I am Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, coming at you from the Wizard's Tower. And welcome to the dark side of the room. Now, this is the show where we talk about being nerds. That's what we are. We are all about being nerds about tabletop gaming and miniature painting, train sets, model building, 3D sculpting, just all the stuff involved with people that you're used to hearing talk like this all the time. And why do we do that? Well, we're going to get into that today. So, I've got a fresh cup of coffee that I'm zhuzhing up right now with all the stuff that I've put in it. And that's right, 3D. Ooh. Because 3D printer go burr. I like playing games. I don't like drama. Nor do I like phone calls. Stop calling me like this. Guess what? You're going on Do Not Disturb. I am so tired of people calling saying, yes, we're calling in regards to your property in Long Beach. And I'm like, I don't own a house in Long Beach. Get rid of my phone number. Stop it. Just stop calling me. Of course, sometimes I'm like, oh, my phone is ringing. Hello, salesman. How are you? Yes, I live alone. Are you having a good day? Yeah, so tell me more about this program. I need company. But, like I said, we are talking about all that stuff. Now, if you guys have any questions or comments, you've got a couple of things that you can do. Number one, you can leave a comment right here, just like the Knights of G just did. So, hey, if you're watching on YouTube now or in the future, hit me up in the comments. And again, like, subscribe. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it shouldn't be this hard. So if you guys already follow and like and all of that stuff, you can totally share the videos and tell your people, hey, push the button. This is a guy trying to make an honest living. And of course, you can also email me at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Back in the Deck, on Instagram at Back in the Deck, and all of this stuff. Also, if you are on that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then join the group Deckers on the Book. All right, come on in, and we will welcome you with open arms now that you're gaming or reading the comic books. We're nerds and geeks with open arms. Yeah, that's right. Journey made more than one song, but you don't have to stop believing in that one song. So let us get on to the show. Wow, we are opening up with a question, and that is amazing. This one comes from Knights of G. I meant to ask you, what kind of 3D printers and how many do you have? Well, he wants to know about the garden. Should we tell him about the garden? Yeah, we should tell him. about the garden. Let's tell them about the garden and all that. So, my garden consists of one of the first generation Omerons with one arm printer from the old kits back in 2005. I also have an Elegoo first run, a Anacubic monophoton, also first run, but that's been upgraded to be a a Photon S that I upgraded to a mono. I also have an Anacubic Mono X 4K, an Anacubic Mono X 6K, and Elegoo Saturn. Do, 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 do. A Piopoly, the Piopoly, not the Noir, but it's big. Okay, it's a Piopoly big one. I paid way too much money for it, and I mowed a lot of lawns to get that money. I also have two monoprice FDM printers and of course a CR10. Hey, what's going on, Andre? That's right. Yep, I'm back. I'm bad. I finally got some time off of the day job and all that stuff, and thank you for the subscription. Give your girl a hug for me. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in this show. Man, so now that we got all that, I'm warning you guys now there are commercials and all that stuff. So if you guys want to help out with all that and make it so that I am not a slave to Mr. Twitch sending Italian guys in ill-fitting suits speaking improper English to me and breaking various body parts, please subscribe to the Twitch channel as well. But hold up. Don't use your money. Use Jeff Bezos' money. You can subscribe for free using your Amazon Prime gaming account, okay? That really helps us out. It actually sends in a paycheck. And of course, we have a Patreon. You can go in for as little as $1. $1 that makes you holla all the way over there just doing the thing on Patreon. It really, oh man, thank you, Knights. All right, donation. I would say, hey, he gave a donation of some bits. You got a question? And I realized I just answered your question. So that was that whole thing. So now, if there are any kids watching this, do not start doing this. Do not smoke anything, okay? I'm paying the price. It's been a long time. And I can't do as much kung fu or basketball as I used to because I can't breathe nearly as much. And now that I actually enjoy singing, I can't do it no more. So don't start. It's bad for you. Anyway, so I wanted to get in and talk about being back to basics, y'all. Back to basics. Why are we here? What does Back in the Deck do? Why do I talk about all this stuff? Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. As you OGs know, we're talking Neon Arlecchino, Xanathades, Vision Vendor. Oh, what's going on, Julian? I missed you this weekend, man. I'm like, dude, why didn't you come? Wanted to see you. Why do I do all this stuff? Why do I want to do this? Well, I'll tell you this. There are so many things in the world that I love. I love games. I love people. But more to the point, I love fellowship. I love smiling. I love spending time with people. And I love it more than anything else when people are happy. Okay? Not that I'm a people pleaser. I don't make that much money. However, I love to facilitate things that have brought me joy over the course of my life. And I have a very storied life, full of tragedy and comedy and what the hell just happened kind of thing. And the stuff that brought me back, the stuff that keeps my feet on the ground, makes me wake up in the morning and all that stuff, is playing with my imagination. Imagination. Get your mind out of the gutter. All right? I'm talking when I was a kid, okay? I've got a birthday coming up in a couple of weeks, and so does Xanathade's kid. So happy birthday to you too. Moo, moo, moo. And when I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s, and if anybody knows anybody that's around my age, I'll be 47 in a couple of weeks. They'll tell you about rushing home from school, taking the key from the string that was around your neck, making your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and watching cartoons like X-Men and Batman and Ninja Turtles and GI Joe and GoBots and Bionic Six and Jason the Wheel Warriors. And one of the things that all those shows had in common, other than terrible animation and horrible storylines, was the fact that the toy commercials were off the charts. Okay. When I was growing up, we had He Man commercials, and it wasn't just a kid playing with a doll. All right. It wasn't just that. I mean, they had play sets, they had backdrops. Let me see if I can pull up some of this stuff. Um, and it was so, so terrible. Um, in the sense of when you're a kid and you're looking at this stuff and you're seeing these little white boys um play with their Master of the Universe toys, and they are just doing so much stuff. All right. So yeah, here we go. We got like, oh, look at that. We got Beastman doing the thing, but it's not just the toys, it's what they're on. Okay. The kids that are on the toys. I mean, seriously, you got that whole thing, but when they do a wide shot on this commercial, it's like, yeah, what kind of rock stuff is there? Oh, okay, they're just focusing on the toys. This must have been one of the later ones. But yeah, I mean, you got the there we go. I mean, look at that. Look at all of this. This is crazy talk. You got the castle going, um you got what looks like scenery happening over there. You got all that stuff going, and those kids just look like they're having fun. And then, um, you're looking at your mom and your dad, and you're like, "Oh my god, um, oh my god, mom, can I have get it to a cast? I want the Castle Grayskull." And if your mom was anything like my mom, or your dad's, or anything like I guess my dad would have been. I don't know. He wasn't around. Um, you know, they would look at you and be like, "It's good to want things, kid." Or you got Castle Grayskull money. I ain't got Castle Grayskull. What you talking about? This Castle Grayskull? You want to talk about Castle Grayskull? Why don't you vacuum the flow in this castle? And but one of the things they said to me a lot when I was a kid was, you can do that when you grow. When you grown, you can spend your own money on toys. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I remember you said that. Now that I'm almost 47 years old, yeah, I do that. I do that. I make the whole scenery. I do all that stuff. But the old time viewers to the channel know this. When I discovered D&D and Warhammer 40K and games that weren't the typical board games that you got from thrifties like Monopoly and Risk and maybe Boggle, my mind was blown. I was like that old meme to date myself. I'm like sitting up there going, ah, these kids are doing creative writing and story analysis for fun. Because understand, when I was growing up, most of that stuff was punishment. You didn't read books for fun, because if somebody caught you reading, they'd either slap the book out of your hand or beat the crap out of you because what you reading for? Or, man, what you doing reading? What, you gonna be a writer? You gonna be like an astronaut? You know what I mean? But when I found that part of the tribe, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not, oh man. Let's see, it looks like we got a question from Julian Mr. Hemdinger. And you guys should check out his channel, although you've got a bigger following, so I'm saying subscribe to this one because I'm trying to catch up. That's all, no shade. Let's see. Couldn't make it out to LA for the DT show. Had a film festival. Did I go to the show? Of course I went to the show, dude. Of course I went to the show. I catch Double Toasted show every time they're here because they're kind of my mentors and doing this. You know what that's like. That's like me asking you, hey, did you make the DT? Oh, no, wait, I can't say that because you actually work there now. But you know what I'm talking about, all right? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, um, but what I discovered as a gamer is all of the things I was made fun of could be fun in the right company. I could use my mind. I could do math. I could learn I could learn things that a lot of people think they couldn't learn. And the more games I played, the easier it became to learn things outside of gaming. I became better at school. I pick up so many different talents and skills and all that stuff just because I understand games. And it's funny because when I say I grew up in the 80s, I also grew up in gangland. And when you grew up in gangland, you had all the old heads talking about, listen to this, young blood, blah, 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 blah. Now, you really want to make it at the game. You got to be in school. You got to be reading them books because, the game out there, the game is already set against you. And I'm like, you're talking about the game all the time, but you're not telling me the rules and all that stuff. But when I could get my hands on a copy of D&D or a copy of Warhammer 40K or a copy of War Machine or HeroClix, or I had comic books and stuff like that, that didn't just give me escapism, it gave me context for stuff because not everybody has the language to teach things and to actually get through to a lot of kids. And if you were in online spaces, chances are you and your parents don't communicate the same way. You know, Speaking from the standpoint of somebody who has an adult child, um, y'all that grew up with the internet think a lot differently than the people that the internet grew up around. Okay, I'm just putting that out there, and I love it. I'm not the guy that throws shades. So the benefits that I got from gaming are huge and they're varied. It gave me a tribe, it gave me a place to be. It came back with a lot of different stuff, but it really didn't just give me a place to belong, but it showed me something different and a little bit bigger than the very small world I was brought up in. Okay? Because, as I keep saying, I was born in the hood. All right. Actually, I was born in Beverly Hills. And then after I left the hospital, they took me home to Watts, and, but growing up, it was like you had sports, you had caroms, which was pool for children, and once the crack epidemic started and the games came up, that was pretty much it. The biggest sport we had was football, basketball, and running from drive-bys. That was about it. And since I've never had the resonance of um a hood rat, and again, no shade on hood rats, all right? Um, you know, I grew up watching TV, and I'm looking at the Huxtables, I'm looking at the Brady Bunch, I'm looking at Gilligan's Island, and I'm like, if all of these stories on TV are showing stuff like kids going to college and all that other stuff, then it's got to be possible. Because even as a kid, I knew that there were no stories that were wholly original. Okay, if it shows up on TV if it becomes popular, that must means it happens a lot or it happens enough for regular people to actually glom onto it. And that was the world that I wanted to be in. I'm like, but, I see all these kids playing these games, and now I can see I want to be part of that world. The only thing TV lied about was the amount of violence that came on to nerds. They really played it down, unless we're talking a Stephen King made for TV movie, but that's a completely different thing. Um, and once I found games and stuff, I found people that were just like me, that liked the idea of riding a dragon who looks like a dog and says the best way to look at things is with luck and never give up and good luck will find you. And I'm like, yes, I'm all there. As a child, I was crying, going, yeah. Unfortunately, I squished the dog. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I've never squished the dog. In fact, I didn't get a dog until I was in my 30s, okay? And he was a big dog, but I'm a big dude. So, yeah, there we go. One day I might get a horse, name it dog, so I can ride the horse going, yeah. But outside of that, not really. Um, but here's the thing. When I love something, when I really, 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 really love something, okay, I want to share it. I want to be like, dude, I got this thing. No, you're really going to check it out and all that stuff. And I've come across some interesting pitfalls. Let's see, we got Geeky Andre over here saying, I grew up in some gangs and rough stuff on the south side of Chicago. Bruh, you, you got my respect, all right? Should I say south side, hard side, soft side? Oh, wait, sorry, wrong movie. Anyway, let's see, in south side of Chicago. I never wanted to be in a gang, and I was into stuff like you mentioned, right? Not gonna say I never wanted to be in a gang, but my mother, who I was very close to, especially at the end of her life, looked at me, and my mom, beautiful woman, but not a small one. She was 5'10", 215 pounds, 5 pound hands, and wore very large bras. Okay, I know because she complained about it the whole life. And she looked at me one day and she said, "Son, with all this gang activity out there, I want you to know that if I ever find out that you are in a gang, I will shoot you myself. Because I would rather do it myself than you take a bullet from somebody that don't know you and don't give a damn about you. And don't test me because I'm not afraid of going back to jail." And I'm like, I'm not the right son to talk to about that. Gangs won't have me. I like math. So, I wasn't about being hard. I was always more Martin than Malcolm. But yeah, I won't go to a gang, mom. Thanks. That's don't have to be too intense about it. Besides, I'm not really one for their fashion sense. I like ripped jeans and Metallica shirts. So, they're not gonna have me. Besides, can you see me rolling with the Crips? You know, me showing up with my cart and my donkey and my wizard's robes and my tight hat. Break yourself, fools! You shall not pass. Yeah, that's not me. You know. Although, who knows? I might film that skit. Um, but yeah, I want to bring that stuff back. But a lot of people, um, doing the game thing, I have come across a lot of things over the course of my time. Okay. And I want to address some of those things. Now, if you guys are veteran gamers or veteran nerds like myself, grab your pencil and paper, okay? Because a good amount of us have tried to share the stuff that we love with people that aren't exactly in that world. And there are right ways to do it, or should I say there are correct ways to do it, and ways that accomplish the opposite effect. Okay. And we're going to get into that right after I run a commercial here. Because I'm on Twitch and that's my job. So I'll be back in a sec. The girl from Ipanema go walking, and when she's talking, all the boys say, "What's up? Holla, 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 holla." So let's check the emails to see if I got anything here. Okay. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. No one has sent me a letter. You're like, yeah, we singing today. Now I'm a little punch drunk. Um, my mentor came into town from Austin, and we got to spend some time. I got to go to a live show with him. We talked about stuff, and a little bit of fellowship goes a long way. So, if you guys notice, my voice is a lot closer to Tom Waits than to Urkel, like it normally is. So I'm just sitting up going, yeah, chairs a shower. The piano has been drinking. um, no, my mentor for podcasting, actually. My mentor for podcasting came in town, and we talked about a few things and, that kind of thing. My mentor for games literally turned me loose on the world before he moved. He's like, dude, I got nothing else to teach you. Go out, spread the word, do the things. And thus I am. Hey, what's up, Neon? You're a little. Thank you for joining us today. Anything to tell the rest of the class? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So we are back from commercial. Now, as I said, um, over the weekend, I got a lot of questions about games like D&D, 40K, stuff like that. And I found myself having to tell a lot of people about the things that I do. Okay. And I'm like, dude, it's real simple. All right. When I talk about, say, 40K or Grimdark Miniatures games, I'm like, take every popular sci fi property that you can think of, shove it into Dune, make it into action figures, and then go brrr with dice. and my mentor, who is not in a nerd stuff like that, he's like, it's like Risk. I'm like, it's imagine playing chess with your GI Joes, but you roll dice to see who wins the fight. And he's like, "All right, that's cool." Um, but when I try and get people into games, I can go about the benefits all day. But let's go over some of the reasons that people um try and, I guess you can say, duck out of the conversation. Oh, what's going on, Heather? Which unit is the rook? Duh, world eaters. Corn, corn. Because all they do is go forward. Um, but as I was saying, okay, getting back on topic, but thank you guys for your humor. Um, see, you knocked me off my train of thought. You are the only one that can do this to me, Neon, and that's why I love you. When I was explaining that stuff to them, I'm like, take all those sci-fi properties and play with GI Joes. But when I talk to a lot of other people, especially folks from my neck of the woods, I find that the words are different, but the thought process is the same. Okay? So let's talk about that just a little bit. When trying to get somebody into something that you're excited about, okay? Some of the hurdles that you're going to run into, and when I say hurdles, I mean the things that they say, which is my personal favorite, and I'm getting this out of the way because it's the one that's most there. Eh, it's just not my thing. And how can I put it? One of the reasons I have a problem with being sociable, um, thank God for my diagnosis, is one, I'm not really, my brain isn't built in a way where I understand subtext in a moment. I have something called delayed understanding. So when someone throws hints or stuff like that, I don't get it for like a day, which is terrible on my dating life. I'm like, was was that guy flirting with me? Wow, I don't know how I feel about that. 3 days after the event, it is crazy. However, mm, um, so when they tell me those things, of oh no, I'm just not really interested. I'm like, why? Like, what about this just turns you off? What's the wall? You know. And not only don't they have words, but they tend to be unwilling to even examine it. It's, I'm not interested, period. Leave me alone about it. But I don't want to yell at you, but leave me alone. And next thing you know, you've been transported to the parking lot. They've gone to Mars and they're monologuing about how time is not a linear thing and they've lost their clothing. They're naked. They're blue. They're making all that stuff. um, Now, we've already talked about that for 2 episodes, Neon. I'm not revisiting that subject. Um, and one of the things that I've definitely noticed after years and years, well, I've noticed a few things after years of probing and talking to people one on one and buying many cups of coffee saying, look, level with me here. This is my livelihood and I need your help. And then they start to open up a little. And here are some of the reasons that a lot of people won't get into games, or have a hard time getting into games. All right. This is a really big one. Um, For people that look like me, this is a world that some people call, well, that's white people stuff, which is urban code for I've never been exposed to it because I felt unwelcomed. And I'm afraid that if I try, I will be in danger. And I'm like, bruh, that's why I started my channel. Come on in, you know? Um, and that's a really big thing. A lot of people are uncomfortable with new things. And as we get further and further into the 21st century, with so many people vying for attention, look at my TikTok, look at this reel, keep scrolling, keep going, look at me, look at me, look at me, um, it's a challenge for people to sit down for just a second, take a breath, and actually examine something. Okay. Um, I know a lot of folks from my neck of the woods, and I have a pretty big family. I'm trying to learn more people in the neighborhood that moved in after I moved out when I was young, you know, and I don't care how cool the group of brothers and sisters you go around with. You're going to be cool with Uno, you're going to be cool with spades. But anything outside of that, outside of the regular, known, accepted culture, there's going to be a little pushback. Now, with my friends that aren't um, descendant of the transatlantic involuntary, um, the transatlantic involuntary internship program, um, there comes with a stigma of, oh man, that's for dorks. That's for all those people. And people don't want to be associated with the stigma of not being cool, whether or not they're not cool already. And what do I mean? I'm not saying everybody is the captain of the football team, okay? But for the longest time, things like Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer 40K, Lord of the Rings, all of that stuff, it wasn't for the captain of the football team. It was for the person that couldn't get a date and could never make the football team. It was for the lowest in the cast. Let's see, casting this unlikely role. Yeah, yeah, exactly. um, yeah, okay, Neon. You're all right. Let me just close the door to your bridge right there because quoting Rush is always a really good thing for me. Um, so the association of being with, I guess you can say, a group of people that a lot of folks have been trained to believe are unsociable, unwanted, um, othered, rather, is a big ask. Now, also, in the African American community, there is the stigma of if you do this, you're worshiping the devil. Ugh. Because satanic panic never actually went away. That, in and of itself, is an entirely different episode that I'm gonna put on Patreon. Um, I'd probably go viral if I went for it, but I don't want the smoke, and I don't want to give culture warriors another thing. It's exhausting to me. It really is. So, um, you know, but here's the gig. As time has progressed, and I love the generations that came up after me, there are a lot more easy ways to get things in, okay? To get them interested in the world is super easy thanks to anime. It is so awesome. It is really awesome, okay? Because they'd be like, nah, man, I ain't down with all that fantasy bull. And I'm like, I saw Return of the King with you. Come on, man. I'm calling Cap. I'm calling Cap. Um, and they're like, nah, man, I can't get into all that stuff. I'm like, bro, who is your favorite antagonist in Dragon Ball? Like, Are you a Goku or a Vegeta guy? And then they can start going. Or if they start doing the Naruto run, we know. So being a geek ain't as bad as it used to be. It's just a matter of not cracking through that front, but just being like, bro, I see you. Okay, I see you. But see, this comes down to that whole small world, that insulated thing. What a lot of people do with a lot of subjects is they will have a hard standing stereotype, a hard standing negative stereotype, and they will carve out a little hole of specialness for the thing in that stereotype that they like, that they don't want to put with the negative connotation. Oh no, man, I ain't into that nerd stuff, but Dragon Ball's dope. Dragon Ball's dope. All right, yeah. And it's like, as people who advocate for games, we have two choices on this. We can try and get them to address the entire problem to change their entire stigma. If that's you, I didn't start the show with a hat, so my hat has been off to you even before I started going. Or you can just keep giving them little things to make those holes for, and eventually the stereotype will crumble under the weight of whatever's left. You can literally be like, don't look up now, bro, but you're in the Dragon Ball, Naruto, Samurai Champloo, Warhammer 40K, D&D, um, and comic books. You're into all that stuff. Just own it, you know? The one thing I let people know about being a nerd, um, like real talk, the biggest thing that I let people know about being a nerd is no matter what front you're putting on, those of us over here are happy with what we do. We don't stress out about what will the neighbors think and what will the girls think. We're too happy already doing the stuff that we like. And guess what? The girls here are awesome. The guys here are about 50-50. um, and next thing you know, you're ending up spending time with people who you have something in common with, who enjoy doing things and don't spend their time trying to disassociate with the world that they don't like by going numb. Okay? Um, I gave you guys the content warning. So, y'all know I'm always real with y'all. A lot of folks, especially in the lower economic classes, tend to want to disassociate with the world, but the only way they know how to is by going numb, turning themselves off from everything. What does that look like? Generally, smoking weed, putting on music that's so loud they can't hear anyone speak, and then they wait until their next responsibility. Okay? Um, I'm not here to judge. I don't judge people at all. But the thing I try to present is that is a flavor of disassociation. But what I'm offering is an alternative to being numb. I'm offering joy in the disassociation. Hey, what's going on, Cyber Drake? Um You're a lucky man, Zan. I'm not a nerd. NC1701 at Astra Militarium. um I would know the whole number one phrase, but like I said, I'm sleep deprived. I'm really tired, guys. Um, but embracing the nerdness and being happy with it is a different alternative to disassociation than just going numb. And I'm saying this to say this: it ain't like we're not hiding. We're just having fun in our bunker. Okay, that's what we're having fun in our bunker with each other. All right. Thank you at Astra per Aspera. Thank you very much. Um, so with that being said, there are some other things. Now, one of my closest boys, we do reviews on X-Men 97 and Star Trek Discovery. You can find them over on NERDSOUL, bringing you that street geek and nerd soul. Only Imperial Guard quote memorizing as Cadia stands. Well, Cadia stands, no chance. Oh God, there's so many dead, so many. Um, but as I was saying, um, I tried to introduce him to a couple of games, and he said something really interesting to me, which is, I don't want to lose. And that brings us into a different stance, okay, a different segment. Excuse me. And this segment revolves wholly around fear of failure and external sources of self esteem. Okay? Now, when I was growing up, there were a lot of games that were played, and this is all over the world. Um, and you see it a lot online on YouTube. We'll talk about that during the show, but I'll probably like do a whole show on it maybe Wednesday, which is um when we were brought up playing games. Most games are a zero sum situation, meaning there are limited resources and there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. Okay. But the thing is, if you grew up in the United States, especially in the inner city or in the UK or in a lot of Western civilization places, um, you were told that it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And that's what you were told growing up in Little League and soccer, playing basketball, play pickup. You were told this left, right, and sideways. What you were taught was something different, you know, because when you were on the losing team, you got booed, you got bullied, you got clowned, you got your parents saying all that other stuff. Like it's not whether or not you win, or it's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game. But don't lose. Don't lose. You are not going to be a loser. You have to win. You know, and there's a stigma to not being victorious. And this turns a lot of people off to a lot of games where winning and losing is an option. Okay, we've talked about stuff like this on the show before. Okay, um, and deep down in places people talk about or don't talk about at parties is that if you're new at something, you're not going to be good. And this wraps in to a sister subject of this, which is delayed gratification. Okay. As longtime viewers of the channel and people who know me in the real world, know I do a lot of stuff. You know, I GM 8 different systems. I play, got 11 different tabletop minis games. I paint minis. I play music. I breathe fire. I juggle. I dance. I do martial arts. I have got a scroll of skills and I'm always adding to them. But one of the things that I know and everybody knows is when you first start, you're probably going to suck. Okay. And when it comes to things like games, this hits a paradox between culture and thought. Okay. And when I say taught, like I said, they might say things like everybody's bad at first and all that other stuff, but they throw so many consequences at you for not being perfect. Some folks say BS phrases like, well, I'm only pushing you to make you better. And it's like, bro, that ain't your job. Don't do it. Okay. Um, and so they know they're going to be bad at it, but we've cultivated a society currently that pushes people to have expectations on themselves of excellence from the start. Okay. Now, y'all know I don't get political on the channel, but I'm just telling you like it is. Every job application out there is like beginning salary. We want someone with a PhD in the subject of the computer program that we invented 3 years ago, and we want them to have 10 years experience. And it's like, dude, you know, and I don't care if it's work, social groups, social media, dating. Most people are taught by behavior that it is perfection or disposable. This is just part of our psyche now. And at risk of sounding like an old man, it is neither true, healthy, or sustainable. And this is one of the things we learn from games. When I set up learning new games, some folks looked at me going, man, you don't even know what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, I don't. And if you're looking to make yourself feel better by beating up a new person, then I don't really even want to know who you are. I mean, on your first day in karate class, did you go to the local kindergarten and start kicking kids? you know? And because that's really what it comes down to. Okay. Everybody starts somewhere. And when those external factors of self worth start pushing in, it becomes difficult to shrug that off or shake that off, you know? Um, hang on. But see, here's the gig. Okay. Here is the really big thing about that. When you're advocating for a game to a new player, one, you got to let them know that what you're teaching them is complicated for a lot of people. And we'll take it at whatever pace they want to go. And it's not just about winning, but the process of playing the game is fun with the perspective of having fun. Okay? That's a really big thing. A lot of the people that I've coached through a lot of this stuff are former athletes. And all they see is the victory condition. That's what they've been trained to do. And they get all mad when the victory condition isn't there, or when their victory condition isn't met. And I've done show upon show upon show about the storytelling that comes with games, the thought process, the gamble, the rolling of the dice. It's like I've got everything set up the way I'm supposed to do. Now let's hope we don't have a pile in there. Who messed that up? That kind of thing. Um, and once they open their eyes to the process of the game, then they started enjoying it. Then they started asking questions. I piqued their interest by meeting them where they were and showing them where they could go. Okay? But not forcing them to go in that direction. You know, um, now, how is this thing kind of done? When I taught a decent friend of mine how to play Dead Zone, he picked a really hard army to beat. Okay. And when I was going against him, I'm like, all right, we're going to go in and my rats are going to go in. And I guess not. My God, those guys are tough, you know. But when he saw me fail at my plans and still have fun, it was contagious. Okay. This is one of the major things I've learned from glitter is that when it's fun and sparkly, it sticks to everything. Um, Now, what a lot of people um, forget, and this is something I learned from chess way back when I was in the third grade, was my chess teacher at chess club was always telling us to see the whole board. Look at the whole board, not just the piece you wanted to move, not just the thing in the moment, but the whole board. Look at the context of what you're doing. How is this benefiting your plan? What is your plan? When I teach tabletop miniatures games, I see so many people that are just determined to have their guys go pew pew and wipe my guys off the board. And for their first couple of games, I let them. And when I say I let them, I mean, okay, there are so many ways that I could beat you right now with the game parameters, but that will just discourage you from playing. All right, you want to do head to head, ba ba ba, Corn versus Blood Angels, Justice League versus Legion of Doom. Let's do it. Let's just do the fight. You know, um, and in the course of that, I do my best to take the game seriously, but not play seriously. Do you understand what I mean? I'll explain. You guys on YouTube are being a little quiet right now. I hope I'm not upsetting anyone. Um, when I play a game, I do not play to crush my opponents. Okay, I don't do that. When I'm playing with someone on my level, I am playing with the intentions of winning the game. Okay. However, I tend to just want to have fun in the meantime, win or lose. Um, it's time to get a little comic geeky right now. Okay. One of the reasons that the Joker is one of the most Vine construct. Again, I'm a little punch drunk. One of the reasons that the Joker is one of the most beloved villains of all of pop culture is because he wins every time. And is his intention to kill the Batman? God no. That's the audience's intention for him. His intention is to mess with the Batman and cause chaos. Okay? That's all he's there to do. He's there to go whoop whoop woo, I turn the water supply into jam. Canon, actually. Um and when Batman shows up and starts beating him, he changes his criteria for victory. And what a lot of people are taught with games is you get a plan and you stick to it because that's how to be a grown up. Stop. Okay. Um that's that might be how to succeed in corporate structure in business. It isn't. But when you're playing a game, you could make your intention to annihilate your opponent, or you can make your intention to understand a rule better, to understand a phase of play, to finally use that spell that you got the last time that your character leveled up. You know? Um I can tell you quite honestly, I've judged a lot of competitions over my time. I've played loads and loads and loads and loads of games. And whether you're playing Hero Clicks and using the X-Men and using your figures and singing the theme song to the cartoon going, and Cyclops is going to go over here and he's going to use range combat expert, na 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 na, and whether or not he hits and annihilates a thing or misses doesn't matter, because he got to move his figures and be like, X-Men is a TV show, figure that you wanna know. And sorry, we got a thing from Vine Construct saying, I knew a girl who used chess to psychoanalyze romantic prospects. Hope that worked out. Anyway, um, back to, changing your criteria for victory. A Pyrrhic victory in combat or in intention versus a fun experience and a fun bonding moment with someone um is unavoidable if you're not singularly focused on having fun under a single criteria. And a lot of people hear game and they subconsciously or sometimes consciously go, game. The only way I can have fun is if I win. And a lot of folks are, thank you, Cyber Drake Luca. Thank you for the subscription. Um, a lot of people have fun, or a lot of people only can have fun by making you lose. If this is their paradigm, it's really just not fun to play with them unless you are that type of person and that's the agreement that you've gone into. And if so, hey, have at it. Again, I don't judge, I only assess what I will enjoy in the moment of enjoyment. Okay. I love teaching games. All right. Um, the next thing, and it's funny that some of you guys tune in because if you feel that I'm talking about you, I kind of am. And again, no judgment. um, but this goes into the next thing, which is again, we talked about fear of loss, fear of failure. And another thing that this moves toward is two particular things that come in. And this is something that comes from a lot of people from the disenfranchised part of society. We're talking poor families, people of color, and stuff like that. And that is analysis paralysis and a distrust of the people that they're playing with. Okay. I will explain. My ex and I played games a lot, and for the longest time, she would go straight to sour grapes when she wasn't hitting her intentions. Now, a lot of this was based on the idea that she used to play games of pretend and stuff with her mom, and her mom would always change the rules to make sure that her and her sister lost. Okay, and um this set an anchor, okay, an anchoring bias within her mindset of if I start doing well in a competitive thing, my opponent is going to cheat from paying off the refs or not telling me the proper rules. So I'm always on guard, you know. Um and if you grew up from the disenfranchised section of society, we're talking people of color, women, LGBTQ plus, neurodivergent, or fiscally disenfranchised, two things are standard in your daily life, which is people changing the rules in ways that screw you over, or people not telling you the totality of the rules, and those holes in your knowledge are used to screw you over. So I get being on guard. you know, um, I totally understand that. And when I'm teaching people games, I'm like, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have this thing. Now, one of my favorite people on earth, and I had to go over this three, four, five, six times, and I still have to bring it up with her every once in a while. Of I'll ask if she has any questions, and she won't tell me her question because she has a plan, and she's concerned that if she tells me what she plans on doing, even if I answer the question honestly, I'll come up with a counterattack or a counter plan to that. And I'm like, that's not how most of these games work. Okay. But again, it's how it feels at the DMV and the bank and when you're talking to rental officers, and sadly, in a lot of personal relationships that a lot of us have with our family members, with our significant others over time. I'm just being real. Okay. And so cultivating the environment of we are playing games to escape that crap. So, yes, you can come in with the scars, but know that the things that cut you are not here. Excuse me. That's a really big thing. Okay. Um, so that is a huge thing. Okay. That is a really, really, really huge thing to do is to let them know within the environment you're trying to teach, not win. However, that is also a difficult path to tread because a lot of abusive folks use humiliation and I guess you can say um, situational bullying and call it teaching. Like, teach me kung fu, and then they beat the crap out of you until you learn to block. Um, that may be effective in some cases, but with a lot of things like escapism for fun, not so much. Okay. A good amount of us over time have come across gatekeepers in a lot of different ways. And unfortunately, they lie. All right. I really do. I understand it. I get it. I see it. It's why Back in the Deck exists. Okay. Hang on. Because I laugh at gatekeepers. I'm like, oh, well, haha, you're a gatekeeper. Ooh. Have fun being by yourself as your friends age out, have kids, or get sick and can't come over all the time. Us over here, we're doing podcasts, we're playing games, we're painting, we're doing all that stuff. Okay? And a lot of these things add up to the big wall, the biggest wall, the biggest fear of people that keeps them out of enjoying the things that we have. And that fear comes down to I don't think I can. Okay? And all in quotes. So many people, I don't think I can do. I can't do that, and I get it. And this is why I want to cover this subject from the perspective of someone that spends an unhealthy amount of time online. Well, I own it. I know myself. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you look up Dungeons and Dragons, you'll come across things like Critical Role, Dimension 20, Dungeon Dudes, XP to level 3. So many people out there that film their games, and they look so slick in their execution. Everybody knows the rules, everybody knows their characters. No one has to ask how a rule works or anything. Everything is so smooth. You know, you look at a Warhammer 40K battle report and you see, especially from my favorite producers of them, by the way. So, major shouts out to Play on Tabletop. I love you guys. When I'm in Vancouver next, I am going to try and pop by and at least buy people ice cream. I'm dead serious. Okay? But when you're watching these slick, well filmed, well edited battle reports, it gives the impression that a lot of these things are super easy because sadly, and I know this from being a martial artist, a filmmaker, and a musician, professionals are people that make stuff look easy. Okay? And I really learned this with martial arts. Okay? Um seriously. Um I mean this. When I was growing up and I was watching Bruce Lee movies and I saw people doing all those flips and all that stuff, and then when I first got into karate and they're like, "We're gonna start with 100 push-ups," I'm like, "What?" you know. Um, when it came to doing those high kicks and when Van Damme came along and his major thing was the splits and he was doing all that. The first time I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do the Van Damme split, and I'm like, haha, oh my god, it all hurts, you know. Or when would see a band live and the bass player would just be like and just have the coolest look on their face. Or my favorite bass players, they'd be headbanging and running and playing these complicated lines. and I would try it, and my fingers would be like, "What are you doing?" Because I can't do this, you know. uh, um, so I can do a lot of that stuff now, but that took years and years and years and years and years and years of practice. Okay, and don't get me started on painting tutorials. Okay, um, because the way that my brain works, I hear, well, you have to thin your paints, and that's all they say. Some of them might talk about consistency, and some of them might do stuff, but when they move their brush across the mini and I move my brush across my mini, you know exactly which one was which, you know, because there's a whole lot of micro motions and muscle memory and stuff that people can't describe. That's why they say just keep practicing. Um, and so when people see some of the stuff that they see online or even see stuff on this channel, I've had so many people tell me, "Oh my God, you're so talented. I could never do that." And I'm like, "Yes, you can. You can make a piece of freaking um, XPS styrofoam look like wood. Look, take a pencil. Now do this. Okay, see? You did it. There you go. It's done. It's that easy. Sometimes it's that easy, sometimes it's not. But a lot of people, again, going back to it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but how you play the game, but don't lose. That idea of the expectation of perfection on the first try that stops people from believing that they can accomplish these things. Okay? Um I mean, oh, okay. Let's see. I'm planning to paint a giantess and I'm intimidated just because I know that she can't be as flatly colored as similar dudes. Maybe, you know, pick up some really cheap secondhand minis and get your chops with the brush in the meantime, you know? And who knows? You might be a lot better at it than you think. Um but when a lot of people think that they can't do it, there's a whole lot of stuff that comes up. And these are a lot of the things that create barriers in them wanting to learn something new. Okay. Most people are aware of their limitations, but they've been afraid or they've been made to feel shame about having them. Sorry to tell you, people, you're human. I mean, if we were born with the ability to be perfect, we wouldn't have to spend what 17, 18, no, like 16 years of our lives um in school from pre-K through college. We wouldn't have to spend that much time learning how to speak, learning how to do math, reading things on various levels from Everybody Poops and C Spot Run all the way to law books. We wouldn't have to do that if we already knew. Okay. Um, One of my favorite writers, Robert A. Heinlein, in his book Stranger in the Strange Land, wrote his character from Mars saying, "I am but an egg." And what that means is on Mars, they hatch. So when you're new, um, I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, Cyber Drake. I'm not sure if he wrote Earthlight. Um, but what that means is I am but an egg. It means I'm a newborn. I don't know this. This is brand new to me. But at least here in Western civilization, we love coming down on people with their age. You're an adult. You should know this. You went to school. You should know this. Sorry to tell you guys, education is not equal across every geographic region nor every economic region. Some people know more than others. Funny thing about college, um, I've got 3 undergrad degrees, and there are some classes that I never took, like never took, because they weren't involved on my track to graduation. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like I took film production, which means I only took 1 semester of film analysis, which means someone, um, which means someone who has a degree in film analysis took classes that I never did, you know, and they know much more about the subject than I do. And that's the way it should be. We don't all know the same stuff, we don't all have the same experiences. And these are a lot of the things that make us unique and honestly beautiful, you know? Um, when I play or when I teach some people um tabletop war games. I love teaching vets, you know, for two reasons. One, they get really frustrated when they try and use military tactics and the military tactics don't work until they learn what the different units do and how to equate them. And then once they're there, they have an outlet. You know, they can go, oh, this is what that team does. And then once they understand that the dice are the metaphor for random happenings and skill levels, then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, these guys are trained, these guys are better trained. I'm like, you see, you get that. Um, because um it gives us an abstraction of dealing with a lot of the world. But a lot of us have been made to feel shame about not knowing things that we were never exposed to. And that, in and of itself, is unhealthy and unsustainable. You know, over the course of my life, I came to this conclusion because I grew up in the hood. Then I went to school in the downtown area. Then I spent time in the suburbs. And I heard the phrase, it's common sense, everywhere. And I would look at my friends that grew up middle class in Orange County, California, and I'm like, it's common sense to you. But to those of us that didn't grow up in this environment, it's totally foreign. What do you mean didn't grow up in this environment? I'm like, bro, I would give them a hood quiz. Like, you're standing at a bus stop and a 6'4" dude riding um a BMX dirt bike rolls by with his friend on the handlebars. What do you do? And he's like, I just sit there. And I'm like, wrong. You either prep to fight or you leave because a 6'4" man riding a little bike stole that bike from somebody and he's probably coming to ride you or probably coming to rob you, ride you. I'm like, that's common sense. And I'm like, that's common sense where I come from. Do you get it? And see, yeah, Knights of OG, it's like, no, man, you run. You know, because you're from that area. However, you know, um, however, if you're sitting at a bar and a woman comes up to you saying, thank you so much for buying me that drink, and you never did, it's common sense that she's either asking you to buy her a drink or she's hitting on you. I have no idea, you know? So, so yeah, I mean, real talk. Um, just understanding that people are from different places and that what's common for somebody that's good at something isn't common for someone that's never had exposure to it. When I was working the worst job I ever had, I found out that if a homeowner hires a contractor to do something to their house and that contractor doesn't pay their supply company, the supply company can take the house. And I'm like, that's messed up. And they're like, what? It's common sense. If you're hiring somebody to fix your house, you've got to vet them. And I'm like, where'd you learn that? Did you learn that in this business? Is there a college course that you took? Because that's not part of the standard high school curriculum, you know. So, oh, look at you, man, Cyber Drake Luca throwing down game. I don't know. I just said I didn't buy you that drink, but okay. Um, oh no, I've heard. Um, let's see. I don't remember, but something about not knowing things you haven't been exposed to. I wonder is the massive information growing fast enough that there are more things I don't know than there were before I was born? No, there aren't. There's actually less. But the thing is, at least in Western civilization. Thank you, Reagan. Yeah, I'm about to get a little political. Just let me cook. All right. When cuts to education were made, our magnets were taken away. All right. From the 1980s through present, the lack of critical thinking that we get here in the United States ran head on with the invention of the internet. The internet gives us 96% of all knowledge ever recorded globally against an education system that doesn't teach us how to reason and think critically. Um, there's so much knowledge out there, and it has always been out there. And we have access to it now in ways that we never have. However, the skills required in learning are a little duller here. So to think about yourself of, do I know less than I did when I was growing up? No. You're but what's happening is that you can see a lot more of the stuff that you've never been exposed to versus that stuff being there and you being unaware of its existence. Okay? Um let's see here. Lack of critical thinking today. Woo. Yeah. Yeah, we're also limited to the knowledge on Earth for now. Um, Xenothates clears up saying, not that I know less, but that there are more things to know. Absolutely, because we're learning more every day. And thanks to the internet, we're putting it on the internet every day. And unfortunately, we're imagining more things and presenting it like knowledge. So there's more of that to learn every day. Personally, I believe that we don't actually there's not more to know every day as much as there are more discoveries of things that are already out there that we're realizing are already out there. Like what's in the universe is out there. It's already there. We just haven't found it. you know. Um okay, Rick Rolling has done more for people not trusting the internet links than any other cybersecurity program. Maybe. Or are you telling a joke? I'm not sure. Anyway, um so how do we and let's see. Yeah, we talked about the educational thing, perspective expanding. Um so how do we go past a lot of these things? How do we get past people's blocks? Because I'll tell you in my experience, asking directly why, I'm just not interested. Well, why not? I'm just not interested. And then the wall goes up and all that stuff. Now, what I tend to do to get people kind of interested, well, let me tell you a story. I had a friend about 7 years ago named Brandon. I moved away, so I don't know what he's up to and stuff. But I was telling him about Hero Clicks because I loved Hero Clicks, and he hated that nerd stuff because he was he was from the punk rock street, so he was all about rock and roll and looking tough and all that stuff. And he came over to my house one day and he saw my girlfriend and I playing Hero Clicks against each other, and he watched the game and he got invested. And a week later, I was teaching him how to play HeroClix, and he wasn't into games. He wasn't into comics. He found a love for the Legion of Superheroes, and he got good really fast. And it warmed my heart because to see this guy who was so busy standing on his cool hill that he was unhappy with so much stuff to actually have fun and enjoy himself is the whole reason I'm here, you know. Um that's a really big thing. One of the biggest things that I'm grateful for was before my mother's passing, I got to teach her D&D. And she was asking me like, "So, if I use this power to make the lava come up and form a thing and do that," I'm like, "Roll the dice." Okay. And then I described everything that was happening and she's like, "I see why you like this now." I'm like, We could have been doing this since 1991, mom. you know, but I'm grateful that she finally came around and she actually saw, you know, and just look at the smile on my face that I have just thinking back on that. And that's why we're here. And that's the stuff that we're trying to share, you know? Um, so if you see folks that you want to tell about the stuff and they're just like, nah, 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 I'm just not interested in stuff, invite them to hang out while you and someone is actually doing it, you know, and let them ask questions. One of the big things I do that some folks say come off as creepy, but I'm not there specifically for kids, is I'll set up and play in a public place. I'll go to a coffee shop or a park or something, and I'll just play with my friend, you know, and you know, um, yeah, that was really big. Um, and people will come by going, "Oh man, those are dope, man. Where'd you get all this stuff?" I'm like, "I made it out of cardboard and foam. You want to learn how?" Or wait a second, what you do there? I'm like, "Oh, well, this dude used his big old gun and he blasted these guys just right off the thing. He was like, 'What's up, fool? Break yourself.'" And they'd be like, "Man, that's pretty dope." I'm like, "You want to learn how to play? Be happy to teach you." And more often than not, a lot of people sit down and they're like, all right, this is actually pretty dope. And the biggest question I get, especially with miniatures games, is, so do you paint these? Like, do you have to paint them in this color? I'm like, bro, you can paint them any color you want. You can get these things, you can customize them. Like, this person made their team all based on the San Diego Chargers, which is why they got those colors and that lightning bolt. I make mine based off of these science fiction things. This person has a superhero thing. Just go nuts. They're your toys. They're your toys. You can paint them how you want. And they're like, oh man, that's dope. I'm like, you got any cousins or anything that might be interested in that? And next thing you know, I made a friend. You know, that's what we're here for. But all of those barriers come up, and a lot of people are not interested, but these are the ways to get through. When they see people enjoying something, they want to be a part of it too, because fun isn't just contagious, it's actually addicting. And when they see people having fun in a way that doesn't mock other people, everybody wants a piece of that. You know, everybody wants to know that they can be a part of something and they won't be the butt of the joke. This is one of the reasons I'm really big against hazing. I hate that. You know, the whole idea of you're new, so you've got to go through the crap I went through. I went through the crap I went through so that you don't have to. I opened that door. And I think that's why a lot of you deckers are here too. You know? Um Now, for our last segment, okay, and this is a really big one, and I talk to my best friend about this a lot, which is there's sort of, let's say, a mental bacteria going on within the miniature tabletop space. And I thought about doing a whole show on it, but I don't want to be in a bad mood for like a full week. And that's this: a lot of folks have what I'm calling sunken cost resentment. And what does that mean? That means, now, number one, I don't care if it's board games, minis games, RPGs, um, but really with tabletop wargaming, and especially with tabletop wargaming that revolves around Games Workshop, there is what seems to be a huge cost investment. And let me break this down, okay? First off, the rules are a heavy monetary cost, okay? Board games and stuff like this, it ain't cheap, especially no more. I think what Monopoly is up to like $35 or something. Ugh, it hurts. Um, so let's say you wanted to get into something like Warhammer 40K, just for an example, because it's the most popular one out there, right? Well, the rule book costs like 50 and it's about to go up to $65. But then you got to read it. and it's not written in fun language. So now you've got an investment of money and mental energy, okay? And it takes time to understand these things. So now you've spent money, time, and brain power into this investment. And then you buy the figures, okay? But when you buy the figures, those are super expensive. But now you got to put them together. And now you got to paint them. And then you go through the financial cost, the learning how to paint, the mental cost of not being happy with your paint job, the serious mental cost that every new tabletop wargamer goes through, which is trying to match the box art and slowly coming to the realization that these are people that went to art school and had 10, 12, 13 years of practice doing this before they took those pictures. um, and you're not just doing this for 5 or 10 figures, but you're trying to do it with 100. So that's a long time. You get this game, and if you go online to look at it or go to, heaven forbid, a freaking forum board, and you hear all these people talking loads of crap on folks that play with non-painted miniatures because it ruins my immersion. I'm judging now. Um, you know, which means you have to do all this, and then people try and clown you for your paint job. So there is emotional cost, mental costs, um, monetary costs, skills cost, and then talk about delayed gratification. You get this game for Christmas in December, and you're finally done putting everything together and playing this game. If you're an adult, after work and after you get home, if you're single and have no kids, you might be able to play by April, and then you've got to learn how to actually play, and then you sit on the board and you end up playing with people that think you're on their level and you get blasted off the table, or the rules get changed 100,000 times, with data sheet upgrades and erratas and new tournament rule listings and all of this stuff. And now you've got a shelf full of all this stuff that you've spent, no exaggeration, average of about $328 for, that you can't use. And then someone like me comes along and says, "Hey, would you like to learn to play this game?" um, and all of that comes flooding back, and you're like, "Nah." A lot of folks are like, "Nah." As you guys know, I am a shill for one page rules, and they don't sponsor this show. I wish they would. If for no other reason, I'd love to not have to pay my Patreon fee because I'm broke. Um, and I'm going, dude, you can use the stuff you already have. And since Back in the Deck is about opening doors and stuff, I'm like, hey, here's a superhero game. You won't have to buy or paint anything. I have it all. Here you go. Let's just sit down and learn how to play. But they've got their sunken cost in, and they've been burned too many times before. And it's hard to teach someone that you're not their ex. I know it sounds funny to say, I know, but um, being involved in a lot of games with the bigger companies, since they are corporate, is a lot like being in an abusive relationship. I'm putting that out there right now. You know, you spend all this time, you spend all this money on the promise of fun, and then they go, oh, the fun will be there when you do the next purchase over and over and over again. I'm here to let you guys know the upside is that it doesn't have to be that way. If you're looking for content online, you don't have to play tournament rules with 2,000 point armies and cards and fully decorated tables and all that stuff. That's, when I hear, um, when I hear that it's taking away my immersion thing, it's interesting for me because I'm like, it's funny that for all of these things that are based on imagination, you have to physically create a world before you can imagine a created world. That's interesting. You know, It's like, well, it just doesn't seem like a hill. I know it's a book. I'm like, use your imagination, dude. Yeah, it's a stack of books, but that stack of books can be all of this. I'm like, tap into your inner 10-year old, you know. Um, and generally, I have found that people use that stuff as a means of um, bad sportsmanship or gatekeeping. And I'm like, you know, um, but that burn that they've gone through is something that can put up a really, 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 really thing, a really big thing. Now, I'm going into all of this stuff in the detail that I am, is because this is a direct speculation about the things that people, well, that turn people off from trying to play a game that they won't tell you about, either because they're embarrassed about it or they've not taken the time to self examine to find out that this is where it goes through. Okay. Who goes to therapy and says, I want to learn how to have more fun? you know? Or what's standing in the way from me learning new things? I mean, it's, let's see, I found doing a deep dive on Token lately, and he kind of touches on that in an essay or actually a lecture he delivered on fairy stories. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. But yeah. And thank you. Thank you for clearing up the pronoun. Like that being my immersion. Yeah, so I definitely get it. A lot of people have been burned. Now, my technique, and I don't recommend this for you guys because it takes a whole lot of internal fortitude, is let's say you get into a game like One Page Rules or any miniature agnostic game, and you want to take it to your friends that got burned by Games Workshop and 40K, say back at 6th edition, and you say, look, you can use the minis you already have. I let them complain. And then I go back with, well, you've already spent that time, money, energy, and all that stuff. Why not play with the stuff you already have? You know, let's just give this a shot and see what it is. Now, I get a lot of people, and I've done shows on this, specifically the topic of okay, thank you, Cyberdrake. Um, I shall make a note of that. Um, I talk to a lot of people, and when the topic of play the game that you're learning, not cramming the game that you're learning into being what you wanted the last game to be. Okay. One of my best friends, who's still in the hospital, so need you guys to give a shout out to Mad Wookie. When I was teaching him One Page Rules, he was doing his damnedest to cram it into being not just Warhammer 40K, but what he wanted from 40K. And I had to stop him going, dude, relax. Let's play this game with your figures first. Okay? And if you want to try and convert it to that, we can work on it. But know that the company that produces this is not going to change their game to what you want it to be. And he finally got it. After a while, he finally got it. And the game is doing some upgrades and stuff like that. So, yeah. Um, the time is coming around, but a lot of folks were sold a bill of goods when it came to games in the past, and either the company that produced them wasn't totally honest about what they were doing, okay, that not telling you the whole truth and switching up on you, or the people they were playing with were the worst types of people to learn from, and that creates this burned effect, this sunken cost burn, where interacting with the things that they spent that time with could trigger them, could bring back all of those broken promises and all of that false hope. What I do in that situation is I help guide them through it, recognizing that they have been hurt. Recognizing that those players back then were jerks. Recognizing that the game they were sold, um, well, they were sold a lie. Okay. Um, But what I let them know is that I'm not selling them anything. I'm giving them an opportunity, and they don't need to give me anything in return. Um, if you guys are new to the channel and you're wondering what One Page Rules is, One Page Rules is a tabletop miniatures game. Okay, that's a lot like Warhammer 40K. It has a lot of swap overs, and you can use whatever little miniatures you have, even green army men from the dollar store. Okay. Um. Yeah, there we go. And the thing is, they have 4 or 5 different games, and the rules to these games are free. The core rules right here at onepagerules.com. Grimdark Future is the Warhammer 40K thing. And core rules, beginner's guide, mission cards, campaign rules, solo rules, all of this stuff absolutely free. Okay? You don't have to pay a dime. You just need somebody's internet connection and something to download on, like the phone that you have, or if you're watching me on this right now, in the present or in the future, so you're right now, right here, right now, you can get this game. And if you have $1 or $2 to go buy a couple of bags of Green Army Men and some dice, you can play this game. And if you don't want to buy dice, there's dice apps you can use on the phone. You don't need to do a whole lot, but you can if you want. And a lot of people are like, I don't know, man. If it's free, you're the product and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, they have a Patreon model and they do really well. A lot of people pay for the rules, and they pay for the STL miniatures for those of us that have 3D printers. Um, and they're great deals. It brings down the cost of buying the figures from the Games Workshop, minimum $350 for an army you'll never be able to play somebody else with because everybody already spent $700 to $1,000 on their army. They take those same figures and make it down to like $40, you know. Yeah, Vine Construct. I taught Vine Construct how to play, and they like it. And I'm waiting for them to make time to come back and play because I have elves for them. um, yeah, but the rules are free. The stuff is cheap. The experience of the game is what's important to them. And there are other games out there like Gaslands. The rule book is like $30 and you play it with Hot Wheels. There's so many different games out there to play. And um and just to open people's eyes and to let them heal from the burn that they've had in the past. That's one of the things I'm out there with. And one of the things I love about Back in the Deck is since I started, I've gotten so many donations of people that just stopped gaming. So they're like, you know what? I'm done with Star Wars Legion. Here's my collection. And I'm like, oh, great. I got a bunch of Star Wars figures. All right, cool. Some kids are going to love this. Um, Cyber Drake Luca was nice enough. She sent us a whole bunch of stuff that I've been distributing to kids at community centers um, over the past couple of years, you know? So the doors are open to this stuff. And a lot of folks are so convinced that all of the old barriers are still up. And there are a lot of people, especially loud ones, especially on YouTube, Reddit, and 4chan, that do their best to keep the barriers up. But that's a fight they're losing. They're losing that fight really, really hard because there's so much stuff that's out there, you know, and so many people that want to play. It's a lot like anime used to be or comic books with their gatekeepers, you know. I can't tell you how many people over the years I've stopped from going um from quizzing supposed wannabe geeks, you know what I mean? Um have the minorities reach the shield generator? We're working on it. We are working on it, you know, because the best part about being a minority is that we're all tough. I don't care if you're a person of color, woman, LGBTQ plus, physically disabled, neurodivergent, and if you're fiscally disenfranchised, oh, we can take some stuff. And shout outs to all the intersectional folks that are out there. Like our time is well upon hand. I feel like literally a mutant in X-Men with the Friends of Humanity going, no, no girls allowed. Tolkien didn't write any black dwarves. I'm like, well, somebody else did, and it's on TV. So, you can go cry about it. Or you can examine why you have such a problem with that, come to terms with it, and we can have a talk. Uh, um, but yeah, that's a whole thing. So, seriously speaking, guys, I want to, I guess it's call to action time. Big call to action on this is force, don't try and force people to like what you like, but engage with them as to why. And if they still just have the wall up and you want them, show them how fun it can be. One of my coworkers is kind of into this, but she's young and she's like, "Oh no, I just like to chill, you know what I mean? I just want to chill. That's all I want to do is chill." And that was the size of her world. And I think it was 2 weeks ago on the way back to the office from the field gig because we were fixing some statues. I had her drive by Guildhouse Games in Bellflower. And when she walked in and I showed her the games, she was like, "All right, no, this is dope. Oh man, this is cool. This is and wait, you actually play the stuff? And that guy painted this stuff oh man, I would go nuts on all that." I'm like, "See? Welcome to it. This is what I was trying to show you or trying to tell you, but I figured you're more of a tactile person, so I just figured, you know what? I'd come in, I'd show you and you could pick the stuff up." And she picked up the stuff and looked at the detail and like, now when she actually has time, when she gets off of work one of these days, she'll come down, maybe bring one of her friends, and I'll show them how to play Grimdark Future or Gaslands or something like that. And oh, you know, and this isn't me forcing the stuff on her. I just wanted to show her what I was talking about because let's face it, guys, we're gamers. And even though I'm a hell of a teacher, and I know this, I am a hell of a teacher. I don't always say the right words because not everybody learns the right way. Some folks, you just say, "Hey, look, take a look. This is how I painted mine, but this is how he painted his. How would you paint yours?" And then they get those juices flowing when they can touch it and feel it. You know, if you want to expose someone to it, then just expose them to it. Show them the stuff. And you would be so surprised at how far that goes. Especially when you show it to them in an environment that they're safe. Okay? So, with all that, guys, I want to thank you for being here, Cyber Drake. I'm so glad that you're back. Um, Night of G, thank you for being here. Vine Construct, thank you for watching the show. I seriously do miss you. I really do, my friend. I know you're super busy and you're going through it right now, and I'm here. Mark, thank you. Um, all you guys that are here, thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, please like, subscribe. Again, over on the YouTube, I'm really trying to get to that thousand subscriber count because a lot of YouTube is closed to me until I get that. That's just how they work. Their house, their rules. Um, and the more followers we do, the bigger that back in the deck becomes, the more I can do this. But until I get a high subscriber count and on here on Twitch, on the Patreon, and on YouTube, that means if I get called in to a labor job, I have to take it because this is how I pay my rent, guys, or my mortgage rather. And don't be jealous. I inherited the house, but the house wasn't paid off. you know. Um. So with all that stuff, um, make somebody smile, show them the stuff that we're into, and invite them in and keep the door open. And understand that they have a whole lot of blocks to keep them from inside. But if you can figure out a lot of those blocks and address them in a sincere and honest manner, then you get to give your friends something that gives you joy, and it might give them joy as well. Now, all of these things we talked about today, there are no guarantees, okay? I know a lot of people that are just like, that's for dorks, and I'm not going to be a dork, done. And I'm like, all right, cool. Just, but when you have the friends that are sincerely willing to give it a shot, um, help them through it, leave the doors open and guide them. Don't cram them, don't do all that stuff, all right? Understand where they're coming from and try and meet them where they are. All right. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to send me an email over at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram, also at backinthedeck. You can hit me up on TikTok. At BidP, and of course the Facebook group Deckers on the Book. Neon or Zan, if you guys are still there, please put up the Discord server and have them join the really cool community that we have over there. Now, I'm doing my best to get all my social media together so I can put up the stuff that we've painted on the show and all of that stuff. Hey, what's going on? Fred236. Thank you so much. Let's see. Fred12. Zan or Neon is about to put up the thing right there. Just join the Discord right there, Fred. Thank you for being here and thank you for coming in. And again, if anybody tells you guys that you can't have the hobbies you like or like the nerd stuff that you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, neurodivergency, or your budget, because everybody who's ever been to both know that the trailer park is always walking distance from the hood. You tell them to take any of those cards and put them back in the deck. We will see you guys Wednesday, and I'll probably talk about Space Hulk at then. But until then, I will catch you guys later.